Trump is draining the media swamp and little else. Or is Steve Bannon really our president? Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and I was thinking about whether or not I am happy with the Trump presidency. And the short answer would be no. But it's not because I'm gonna sit around acting like Americans made some horrible mistake and that we should try and go back in time or that we should do everything we can to get him impeached. I think that attitude will just make things worse. I am fearful about what is going to happen during Trump's presidency, as I am starting to feel that one of my predictions is coming true, which is that Trump, like George W. Bush before him, is likely just the face of an administration led probably by Steve Bannon, similar to how Karl Rove and Dick Cheney steered the Bush ship. So, am I happy with this? No, and I never once actually urged anybody to vote for Trump, and I didn't vote for him myself. I was a very adamant Sanders supporter, which I have come to realize is not something I fully endorse anymore with the current landscape of global and national economics. However, I was very adamantly against Hillary Clinton, which I do not regret. The evils of Clinton Incorporated is something that I have lived with my entire life in various leftist bubbles of cities, and saw crystallize in the campaign not just in the way that identity politics were used as the main weapon, but more so in the way that censorship was utilized to silence so many people who opposed or even questioned Hillary Clinton's capacity to be a good president. That said, I don't want to hear any bullshit from people about whether Clinton would have been a better president than Trump. We have absolutely zero idea what would have happened if she were elected in terms of policy, and our global position as Americans is far worse than it's been in my entire life. So we were kind of screwed no matter what, and I always was saying that. But we do know one thing. We do know that basically 98% of leftist media never even attempted to criticize Obama, and they were 100% geared up to do the same thing with Clinton. So if she had one, there's no telling what she would be doing, but we definitely know for certain that we largely wouldn't be allowed to question her, or at least that the vast majority of media would praise her and act like everything was cool, blaming all criticisms of her on misogyny. Don't pretend like people didn't say you couldn't criticize Obama because he's black, and if you do, then you're racist. People said that, come on. That all said, it would seem that we have one definite backhanded perk now that we have President Trump, or a silver lining, if you will, which is that we are fully allowed to criticize him openly as a people, which is a good thing overall. However, it isn't so simple. You see, I honestly don't think that it is completely unreasonable to say that Steve Bannon is steering the ship, so when people criticize Trump, it's like they are attacking a decoy. So if Steve Bannon really is the brains behind the operation, remember that Steve Bannon was a co-founder of Breitbart News, and the late Andrew Breitbart was famous for fairly accurately saying that culture flows downstream from politics. So that's an important thing to keep in mind when you think about the exact game that Steve Bannon is likely playing in terms of getting things done. He knows that in order to achieve goals as politicians need the masses on their side, and you do that by inciting cultural happenings in media. And what types of things are happening? Well, there was the immigration ban executive order, but that was so incredibly last week. Now we're on to talking about Donald Trump defending Ivanka's clothing line and beefing with Arnold Schwarzenegger on Twitter. And both Trump's supporters and his avid resistors can't help but jump into the drama like it's an episode of The Kardashians, creating a media circus likely designed to distract people from actual policies that quietly sneak by. Leftist media will kick, scream, and talk about revolution and impeachment because Trump is a mean man! But they can only do that for so long, and they are too stupid to figure out what policies Steve Bannon is actually getting implemented and what to do about opposing them. Regardless of what I actually want to happen, which I am unsure about, I predict that there will be a period of left-leaning media outlets talking a big game and having people like Rosie O'Donnell imitate Steve Bannon on SNL, thinking smugly to themselves that this is going to be the way to finally get under Trump's skin and have him do something stupid that will get him impeached. But of course, it will only lead to further Twitter arguments, and I think Steve Bannon is banking on that. I think Steve Bannon totally wants Trump to precisely keep tweeting out the daily news that the left can write stories about. He wants him being crazy on Twitter because the left is so painfully lazy in terms of journalism that they'll stupidly be kept busy with Twitter drama for a few years, while Bannon quietly does stuff that actually matters. This puts us as a people in a rather precarious position, because as long as the left's entire strategy is to resist Trump's presidency at every opportunity, including Twitter drama, it casts far too wide of a net and makes resisting anything that truly is potentially nefarious almost impossible. Because, like the boy that cried wolf, not enough people will rally behind preventing any individual cause because there are so many protests. And also because nobody will take something important seriously, because of the pointlessness of most of the protests. Furthermore, the average American will get sick of the left's constant attempt at a media circus, because the left has drastically jumped the gun and yelled fire in a crowded movie theater. For example, as soon as Trump got into office, unfunny leftist comedians decided that they were gonna stick it to him in the tradition of Jon Stewart on The Daily Show during the Bush era. But of course, these people are hacks and nobody likes them. People are getting tired of media from the left, and there is definite new media sprouting up. Instead of The Daily Show and SNL, people are watching Milo Yiannopoulos, Paul Joseph Watson, and Steven Crowder. They are much more entertaining, but also completely politically biased in favor of the non-establishment right-wing populist-driven politicians like Trump and those who advocated for Brexit. The Paul Joseph Watsons and Steven Crowders of the world will become mainstream eventually in some way or another, even though they came from YouTube, despite legacy media repeatedly telling everybody that this is impossible. Because, as Justin Bieber, who did the exact same thing, says, never say never. You can become famous from YouTube. Justin Bieber did it. Trump's only real role in this is likely to keep the media busy, so he can help facilitate mainstream leftist media downfall by making it abundantly clear how culturally irrelevant and predictable they truly are. Which is why even during the campaign there was talk about taking away his Twitter access, and yet it never happened. Truthfully, if this is what's going on, Trump probably knows his part in the gigantic media circus, and he likely thinks it's fun. People say that he has a thin skin, but I think he revels in the celebrity drama. All the while, people like Steve Bannon decide what direction our nation will actually go in, and almost nobody without any super inside scoop about what he is actually thinking is smart enough to figure out what Bannon's plans are from afar. I know I'm not. It's gonna be a long 4 years, but as many people have pointed out in the past, it's gonna be entertaining. So grab the popcorn. Even if Trump does get impeached, I imagine the same plot will follow with Pence playing the lead, though it will likely look slightly different. By the time the true plot really changes, it will be already too late and the focus will be on something else too big to ignore. That's all for this evening. Drop me a comment, sign up to help me out on Patreon if you think I'm entertaining, and stay tuned.